well. And the scope is the set of resources that this access could apply to. So here we've got 4 other subsections of this. You've got a management group, so that's a collection of subscriptions. Subscription speaks for itself, and resource groups within the subscriptions, and then the resources that reside within the resource group. So the scope will have role definitions applied to them for certain security principles. There we go. I have control. That works. So then we go on about to talk about role assignments as well. So using the 3, the security principles, the role definition, and the scope. The role assignment is the actual process of attaching the role definition to a user group, or a service principal or managed identity. So that security principle itself, with the particular scope for granting access. So access is granted by creating the role assignment, and access is revoked by removing the role assignment. So you can add or remove the roles as you see fit within your organisation. So what happens if you have multiple roles? So most estates have more than one role, and members of or security entity was security principles within that will be part of more than one role. Ultimately, it's worth remembering that these are additive, so the permissions will add to each other. So effective permissions are the sum of the assignments. So if I have contributor somewhere, but then I have owner, they will add to each other, and I'll get the highest level of permissions to the scope that's been defined. This is where deny comes in really useful. Previously, Azure, so those of you that have worked with Azure for a while knew that RBAC was quite late in the game, and the security model was quite wanting compared to some on-premise and other more mature cloud offerings. So allow only was the model that Azure went with, but with the development of the deny aspect, it's made this really powerful as well. And limiting access to resources is a really powerful way of being able to control which users, which groups, security principles, or other managed identities have access to particular scope of resources as well. We can also go into how RBAC determines whether or not a certain security principle has access. So the first stage of that would be for example, a user requesting access and trying to get a token from Azure Resource Manager. That Resource Manager will give a token based on the user's group. The user will then make an API call to Azure Resource Manager with the allocated token. The Resource Manager will retrieve the role assignment and any deny assignments that will apply to the resource that I'm trying to access. Azure Resource Manager will then narrow the assignment that the user or their group determines what role they have for this resource. So it will give me, I'm trying to access a storage account. I have contributor access to that. ARM will define a lot of that. Then ARM will determine whether the API call is included in the role for what I have for the scope of access. If it doesn't, it will deny me. If it does, it will give me access to the underlying resource that I've asked for. So it's ARM is center to the mechanisms of how resources are allocated and how access to this is granted. So looking at some of the roles that are defined within the security model of Azure. There's 3 types of role that have evolved over the years. There's the classic subscription administrator roles, there's Azure roles themselves, and there's Azure Active Directory roles as well. So the classic administrator roles, as you can see on the diagram on the right, these have full access. Classic subscription administrators will have full access to the Azure subscription, and this is traditionally set up when the Azure subscription or the tenancy is set up. Whoever signs up for Azure is automatically set the account administrator and the service administrator. Then co-administrators can be set up after that. Then we can start defining some Azure roles. So obviously we talked that Azure RBAC is based on Azure Resource Manager, and that allows for the finely grained, tuned access to the management of different resources as well. Azure RBAC has probably about 70 roles that are predefined with it built in, but there's 4 key ones that are commonly used for most resources as well. So that's the owner, where you have full access to all resources, and you can also delegate access to other resources as well. Contributor, you can create, manage the resources you have control, but you cannot delegate access to other users. Reader, as the name suggests, you can view Azure resources, but you can't manage, create, or delegate any access to them as well. And user access admin is it manages user access to Azure resources, as the name suggests. They're quite self-explanatory. The AD roles, so these are used to manage resources in a directory such as create, use, edit, assign. So they're extra roles within an AD construct as well. They allow you to reset user passwords, manage user licenses, manage domain roles and aspects like that. And there's three key ones that we're going to pick out here. So global admin, obviously everyone should know what a global admin does, and that allows you to manage all the services and assign other admin roles to other users. The user admin, you can create, manage all aspects of user accounts, from changing passwords to monitoring health services. Whereas a billing admin, you just want to look at making purchases and managing subscriptions and things like that. RBAC gives you the ability to use the built-in ones, but ultimately if there's roles that aren't there that you want to create, or you want to create something that's quite special for a set task, then there's the ability to create custom ones as well. So it really does give the ability to finely tune permissions and make sure that you are protecting your data at all times and access to that data set as well. Going to move on quickly to Key Vault. So what is Key Vault? We'll start with it's a secure repository that allows you to safeguard cryptographic keys and other secrets that are used by other Azure services, such as cloud apps and services. It's the secure repository enables you to store secrets ultimately in a secure fashion. It allows you to increase that security with control over keys and passwords. It allows you to create and import existing keys and manage things like encryption keys very easily. It will ensure that applications have no direct access to credentials. So before, where you had to create application accounts within Active Directory, or you had to build in certain permissions to an application, it removes the need for that. So not having credentials stored within an application is a significant uplift on how you can control access to certain resources from a programmatic perspective as well. And looking at automation, so automation of TLS and SSL certificates potentially, making sure the automation of the renewal and the management, so revoking